which we talked about before. Number 11, crocin. Number 12, Ciccone. Number 13, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but it's essentially EPO. Number 14, estrogen. Number 15, fish oil. Number 16, genocide RD. Number 17, L-theanine. Number 18, lithium. Number 19, melatonin. Number 20, minocycline. Number 21, nicotine. Number 22, Nootropic. Number 23, PQQ. Number 24, progesterone. Number 25, resveratrol. Number 26, serotonin. 27, simvastatin. Number 28, targeted hypothermia. Number 29, trophic factors. This includes BDNF, CTNF, or CNTF rather, IGF-1 and VEGF. Number 30, vinpocetine on the nootropic. Number 31, vitamin E. Okay, so the point here is that a lot of these agents, for those of you who take nootropics or understand nootropics, are familiar with some of those agents, a big percentage of them are nootropics. In fact, somewhere around 75% of them. I'll flip down the nootropic to sort of give you an idea of which ones are nootropics. The first one, ACO, that's nootropics. Second one, acetylcarnitine nootropics. Number 3, acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. These could be huperzine A, timantopine, or something similar. These are nootropics. Acetylcysteine. You could consider this a nootropic because it's really the aids in mitochondrial enhancement. I think that applies in the brain. Number 6, tocopherol definitely nootropic. Caffeine is number 7, definitely nootropic. Number 10, Ciccone, major nootropic. Let's see, moving down the list here. Number 15, fish oil, definitely nootropic. Number 17, L-theanine, totally nootropic. Melatonin, I don't know if you consider that nootropic, but I sort of do based on my broader understanding of what nootropics are. 21, nicotine, definitely nootropic. Number 22, Nootropic, definitely nootropic. And moving on to the rest of the list, let's see, trophic factors, vinpocetine, 29 and 30. Those are both nootropics. So when putting this all together, I think we have to look at a number of different things. We look at what we do already to our bodies. We have to look at what we consume daily. What kind of chemical agents we use to clean our dishes and our houses. We have to look at the chemical agents that we put in our bodies. We have to look at our consumption of alcohol. We have to look at the metabolic byproducts of alcohol and how they can be carcinogenic. And how maybe that's true, and that just looking at the comparison between alcohol consumption and nootropics is enough for you to say, okay, taking nootropics long term is a safe bet, especially when compared to alcohol. But also another perspective, there would be some centenarians in certain places that to 110 years old and cite at least partially their capacity to live that long as being like them sitting down at 3 p.m. and drinking a shot of whiskey or 2 shots of whiskey and having a few beers. Now, who knows, and that's highly unscientific, and that really might not be the basis for them making it to 110 years old. But that was a different perspective, but still proves our perspective. It still gives us a little more ammo here, and that's that something that has been proven over and over again to be potentially carcinogenic and to have damaging effects on the liver, to facilitate violent and destructive behavior among people, and to be widely accepted as generally unhealthy. People can consume those things at varying degrees and still make it to 110 years old. People can consume these substances at varying degrees and still live a very long time. Now, I think we also have to consider that some of these people, particularly the centenarians in the blue zone, some of which report drinking alcohol as part of their kind of daily stack of things that they do, also have other things that contribute to life longevity as well. But a lot of them spend a lot of time with other people, so there's always a community thing going on. A lot of them spend a lot of time learning. Most of them spend a lot of time outside and with each other, so they've got that combination there. And some of them in remote areas of Italy frequently drink red wine. So one should really ask the question, are nootropics safe to take long term? I think it's a responsible question, but one should ask the question, considering an otherwise healthy life, and a human doing everything they can to prevent disease, to keep the gut functioning well, to keep the rest of their physiology functioning well, to keep their immune system up to par, and every other attempt to engage in practices that may extend life and facilitate longevity, are nootropics an acceptable addition to that strategy? When I say that's biased or not, you know, the adding the product or not, I have to say the answer is I believe that nootropics are safe to take long term, depending on the nootropic. I believe that one should identify which nootropics might be beneficial for them and really go into the field of nootropics and taking nootropics, understanding which neurotransmitters these nootropics are going to affect and or which receptor sites in the brain certain neurotransmitters are going to affect. That no human is smart making a decision to do anything without fully understanding or at least partially understanding and then further experimenting with the repercussions. That we should understand what things are doing to our brain. When I have conversations with people about cortex or nootropics in general, or sit down and have conversations with somebody and I recognize that they're having some sort of cognitive deficit right as we're speaking, and I try to sort of talk to them about why that might be happening. They don't know. Nobody really has an idea. They're not thinking about dopamine and acetylcholine and shortages of neurotransmitters or a misfire somewhere in their brain. None of this stuff even crosses their mind. They don't even think about the neurology behind it. And they should. More people need to understand the neurology behind their brain functions and their brain states throughout the day. And that is the basis for healthy experimentation with anything, and certainly nootropics. So in summary, obviously my position is that nootropics are in fact safe to take long term. That doesn't mean that all nootropics are safe to take long term. It certainly doesn't group all of these chemicals that can be considered nootropics into one category and categorize them as safe to take long term. It just means that certain nootropics for certain people probably are safe to take long term, and in my opinion are in fact safe to take long term. But again, we have to come back to the idea that one has to do the research to determine which nootropics that might be, and also to determine when they should cycle on and off of said nootropics. One of these sort of balancing games that is constant in the nootropics community that would be apparent to anyone who's taken nootropics for a great quantity of time is the racetam-choline balance. This is a very simple stack, a very well-known stack, but has a lot of history behind it, a lot of research, and a lot of user experiences, where you've got two chemicals that essentially balance each other out, and one chemical would deplete the other chemical, the choline reproduction, the racetam in this case, possibly depleting stores of acetylcholine, which is why you have to take with racetam, you've got to take a choline source for most people. So in this dynamic here, you have to understand the balancing act. If I take 1,000 milligrams of oxyracetam and I don't take it with a choline source and I do this for 10 days, then I'm probably going to end up in a cholinergic deficit at some point. Maybe the dose just varies, but then once I get to that place where I'm feeling in a cholinergic deficit, then I might want to consider taking something like uridine monophosphate and CPP choline together for the subsequent 30 days so that I can get myself back to a level of cholinergic functioning that is normal, or even a cholinergic surplus. Now, do I expect everybody to be a biohacker and to engage in a degree of precision and experimentation that a lot of us nootropic users, smart drug users, and biohackers do? No. The answer is no. And for those people, they may want to do a little more research before they try nootropics, experiment with nootropics, or even think nootropics are safe to take long term. But for those of us who understand, and for those willing to do the research, and willing to try to do anything to improve their brain, so long as it's safe over the long term, because they're conscious enough to know that the brain is declining as they age, and they need to fix it, repair it, keep themselves functioning optimally, experimenting with nootropics granularly and safely is a great answer. And finally, one more time, all things considered, especially all of my various clauses throughout this podcast, my answer is yes. I believe that certain nootropics are safe to take long term. But cycle wisely, do your research, and draw your own conclusions. And let us not forget that every day, for the majority of us around the world, we actually wake up in our houses, in our homes, and we brew a nootropic. Yeah, you know about that? Here's what it's called. Coffee. Check it out. Caffeine, the molecule, binds to receptor sites, adenosine receptor sites in the human nervous system. Tell your brain that adenosine isn't actually present. Adenosine stimulates signals that tell your body it's time to rest and activates the response necessary to engage in full and sustained sleep. As a result of this happening, your brain actually doesn't identify adenosine and recognize that it's there, and nerve activity doesn't slow down. If anything is a nootropic here in this conversation, it's caffeine. That's essentially what all nootropics do. They facilitate the function of certain neurotransmitters or bind to certain neurotransmitter receptor sites to springboard cognitive function in some way, whether that's promoting wakefulness, keeping you alert, or keeping you intellectually in a great place, or promoting other cognitive abilities. My experimentation with nootropics so far has spanned 6 years, and not only am I still alive and functioning well, but I'm the founder of 2 companies, 2 of which are operational, fully operational every day that I run, manage, and build. I do so with great performance, and my capacity to engage in intellectual tasks, as well as tasks that require my brain to work outside of the fluid world, has only increased over the years. My memory's gotten better, my verbal fluency has gotten better, my navigational empathy in the world based on the fact that my brain is working better has gotten better. My nootropic experimentation uses over the coming years will continue to expand. I will continue to learn about which chemicals do which things to my brain and how that affects my everyday functioning. I will take the research that I've done so far and continue doing more research and continue doing more experimentation to find out what works and what doesn't, what aids in preventing cognitive decline, what makes my brain function better now, and a whole host of other things. And perhaps what's most exciting to me about nootropics and using nootropics long term is essentially my kind of theme on why biohacking itself is really awesome. And that's because you get to have your finger on the dial, controlling your physiology with the capacity to to have all that content sent directly to your inbox. It's not like FeedBurner where it automatically just gets generated and sent each time you post a post. Instead, what's going to happen is at the end of the week or at the end of like a 7-day period or a long period of posting content, within about a week or 2 weeks span, or probably the highest of those 2 weeks, we'll send all of the content that was posted directly to your inbox. You don't get 100 emails a day or 100 emails a week, 100 emails a week. You know, at the end of the week, you'll get an email with all the content that we put out, linking to all the individual blog posts and or podcasts and or YouTube videos. Because after all, who doesn't want epic smart drugs and nootropics content delivered right to their inbox? I totally do. Number 5, the Cortex Nootropic is out there killing it in the market, and it's helping a lot of people get a ton more productivity out of themselves, which makes me really happy. I'm going to read a review from a woman who lives in Ontario, Canada, that reached out to me to sample the product in its initial launch stages, and has since bought a vial and really loves the stock. Her name is Sophie Ayala, and here's what she has to say about Cortex. Ryan Michael Bella's created superior nootropic Cortex. After trying several of the different varieties of smart drugs out in the market, I was very impressed with Cortex. I was able to feel focused, alert, aware, and energized with no side effects or headaches, being a working mother of 2 young kids. I usually take caffeine pills every day. With Cortex, I was able to go to a spinning class. Congratulations on getting up and going to a spinning class. Right after work, and I had plenty of energy to get me through the high-intensity class, and to be back home to feed and bathe my kids. That is an epic review. Thank you so much, Sophie. It's been really wonderful talking with you, Sophie, and kind of interacting with you about nootropics and life and everything else we talk about on Facebook and Twitter. I really appreciate the review, the support you've given the product, and what we're doing here all along. It's really solid stuff. So, if you haven't tried the Cortex Nootropics, snag yourself a bottle at livecortex.com and see for yourself what all the fuss is about. Cortex is designed specifically to enhance dendrite and axon growth between nerve cells in the brain, as well as improving both the quantity of the acetylcholine neurotransmitter and increasing the density of its receptor sites. It also has a profoundly positive effect on the dopamine system, so you might find yourself epically motivated to get work done while taking it. That has been the reviews and the sort of sentiment about it among its users. All right, folks, the introductory babbling has ended. It's time to get into the podcast. Episode 006, all about Ginkgo, coming at you. I gotta tell you, I haven't been around for 6 years. I will not go through the rest of my podcast. Talk about irazepam, piracetam, uridine, monophosphate, alcohol, ciccone. You can always have a better brain. So, live Cortex Nootropic podcast. Ginkgo biloba, ladies and gents. You know, it's funny because this is one of those commonly thought of herbs in the minds of non-nootropics users. When you ask them if they know what nootropics are, you like start to explain to people that nootropics are chemicals or herbal agents that through various neurological mechanisms enhance brain functionality and performance. They sort of look at you for a second and roughly go, like Ginkgo biloba? Yes, like Ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo is one of these herbs that people refer to as giving them mental energy, but it sort of gets locked into the category of stimulants like caffeine because of that. And we're really looking at the mechanisms of action behind Ginkgo's magic on the brain, which we're going to talk about. It's far from being a mere stimulant. Ginkgo gets grouped into the themes, the caffeines, the taurines, guaranas, other kind of herbs in that category. I very much group it in with some of the big boy nootropics like irazepam, uridine, Ciccone, and others, particularly because of the profound effect it has on my verbal fluency and my mental performance in general. To me, the effects of Ginkgo biloba are quite conspicuous in that within about 20 minutes I feel virtually every facet of my brain working noticeably better. Immediately I notice a potential verbal fluency improvement that competes right up there with the best of them, like triacetyleuridine, the Cortex Nootropic stack, even the alpha brain stack. I used to take back in the day and always experienced a great degree of functional verbal recall. For the duration of the stacks, which really seem to last nearly all day, I feel a distinct dopamine response really turns on my reward system functionality. It's pretty cool. I feel motivated to get work done, I feel excited about life, I'm able to more efficiently, almost effortlessly correlate my work with the rewards that come with my work, which is awesome. It's easy to see outcomes that are much more motivated to get there, and I really want to talk about this podcast why I think that is. Let's just jump right into it. Ginkgo biloba has intrinsic compounds that may be partially responsible for this extra motivation in the form of the reward response optimization. These are called flavonoids, these intrinsic compounds. Flavonoids are really a kind of polyphenols in kind of plants, and definitely in Ginkgo biloba. There are 20 types of flavonoids in the Ginkgo plant, but I think that there are 3 major ones that might be at play here. I'm going to try to pronounce them, so if I butcher them, please don't butcher me. The first one is quercetin, the second one is camphor, and the third one is isohamnitin. These are the 3 major flavonoids that I think are responsible for some of the effects that I laid out. But one of them, or perhaps all of them, appear to increase dopamine concentrations in the prefrontal cortex of experimental rats. This was measured 40 to 180 minutes after oral ingestion, where dopamine levels shot up shockingly high, 85 to 134% above baseline. It's pretty darn impressive if you ask me. It's important to note that this was not after a single oral dose, though, but rather subchronically dosing for about 2 weeks. So I'll let you not to expect those effects right away, but continue dosing with Ginkgo and you're going to be right about that. There's also a minor increase in dopamine in the striatum, which is why this is so interesting and why this might contribute to the sort of reward system functionality, because the striatum has a lot to do with the reward system functionality of the brain. Very impressive stuff. It also has a neuroprotective effect on dopaminergic neurons that is quite impressive. So all this stuff might explain the pretty instant surge of motivation I get with taking Ginkgo biloba. And by the way, I've been taking it for months on and off, so I'm way past that initial period where dopamine levels don't get affected. And I really can't say what that period is for people. I mean, in this experimental study where we talked about dopamine concentrations rising up to 134% above baseline, that was rats, and so people are definitely going to be different. And so your mileage will certainly vary. But the question in my mind, one of the questions in my mind when I was really starting to research Ginkgo biloba, understanding how it affected my brain, is what about the plant makes it so that when I take it, I'm a lot more verbally fluent. That was my primary interest in researching this wonderful chemical, because to me, verbal fluency is a great baseline factor in overall brain performance functionality. And if one has the capacity to fluently access and use their vocabulary to perform sentences well, then the rest of their brain is likely working pretty good. I always use that as a sort of baseline. For me, I always know, wait a minute, the judge for how my brain is working right now is verbal fluency. Am I verbally fluent or not? I'm in, great, I'm in. No, I'm not, okay, I need to work on it. So in researching this compound further, I discovered that working memory task. A randomized double-blind crossover design was employed in which participants were allocated to receive 14 days GBE and 14 days placebo in random order. For both groups, steady-state visually evoked potential was recorded from 64 scalp electrode sites during the completion of an object working memory task, both pre and 14 days post-treatment. Ginkgo biloba extract was found to improve behavioral performance on the working memory task. GBE was also found to increase the steady-state visually evoked potential amplitude at occipital and frontal sites and increase steady-state visually evoked potential latency at left temporal and left frontal sites during the whole component of the working memory task. These changes associated with GBE may represent more efficient processing during working memory task completion. So needless to say, Ginkgo has some pretty interesting properties and statistically significantly improves working memory. Which is actually a great segue into the next thing I want to talk about, which is that Ginkgo biloba is a natural nootropic. I love smart drugs, the actual pharmaceutical ones, like oxyracetam. I've been totally obsessed with lately, and aniracetam I've liked for quite some time. But I also have a strong affinity for compounds that you already make in your brain that are synthesized from food or are intrinsic. And that's the basis for the cortex nootropic stack, right? Two of the main ingredients in that stack you make in your brain are major components and parts of the functionality of the human brain. I think that you have to think about mental optimization, cognitive optimization in general, from the standpoint of looking at what underlies the brain's function as it is, and seeing if you can optimize those things. And I also believe in bringing outside chemicals in, like in the case of the racetams, oxyracetam, and aniracetam specifically for how they work on acetylcholine receptors, among other things. I think there's a place for that stuff. There's certainly a place for that stuff, and it works very well. And I also think that if you're really going to try to optimize the brain in a major way, you have to look at how the brain already optimizes itself. You have to look at the brain in an optimal state, see if you can mirror that. Because the brain, through the various things that we subject ourselves to throughout the day, like stress, will deteriorate in those ways, in the ways that make it normally function optimally. So trying to find a way to restore that stuff is really one of the main targets of the cortex nootropic stack, and I think should be an ideal target for people creating any type of nootropic, especially natural nootropics. Now, another thing from the perspective of actually making a selling stack, the legality of selling racetams in a stack in the United States is a bit of a creepy gray area, although maybe by popular demand there will be a future cortex generation that launches that has one of the racetams in it, and it just might be oxyracetam, so prepare your brain for that. But, there's a contingent of people out there that look at natural nootropics as really the only way to take nootropics, and they really see smart drugs, they kind of group smart drugs in that category of super stimulants like Adderall. They look at modafinils, or the commonly recited one, and that turns a lot of people off. I had this conversation with two really great guys, a guy named Martin King from somewhere in the UK, and Jorge Barba, who has a podcast, it's a video podcast, we recorded an audio podcast, it's called The Truth About Smart Drugs, where these guys basically just asked me their questions concerning this stuff. They talk about how generally nootropics are seen as drugs, and I think one of the things that Jorge, one of the guys that I was talking to on the podcast, mentioned is like, I try to, he was like saying, I try to get myself into a state of flow kind of naturally. I don't think drugs do that, but I don't, get to think of it that way. If you're taking drugs, suddenly you're going to be in this place where everything types becomes gold, and more functionally in terms of productivity, you're going to just be rocking. And so that connotation kind of leaves people feeling sort of weird about nootropics in general. And so Ginkgo biloba can really come in there and sort of provide a relief for those people in that it is as natural as they get when it comes to a nootropic. If you scour the web and scour YouTube and search for Ginkgo biloba, you'll find a wide range of people using the substance every day, from medical doctors to naturopaths, the people that you know and trust that wouldn't probably otherwise take actual pharmaceutical smart drugs like oxyracetam or aniracetam. So compounds like Ginkgo biloba are actually what a lot of people mean when they talk about nootropics in the traditional sense. We're really not talking about modafinil, we're definitely not talking about Adderall and or Ritalin. Some people might be talking about caffeine. I would say that, based on caffeine's mechanisms, I would consider it a nootropic yerba mate as well. But we're really not talking about some of the widely covered, widely publicized compounds that people like to group in the area of smart drugs, which actually gives it a very negative connotation, sort of sets up the industry in general, and all nootropics and smart drugs industry for failure from the perspective of the outside eye. Because it's more compounds like Ginkgo biloba, like uridine monophosphate, like artichoke extract, like alpha-GPC, like CDP-choline. It's more compounds like that we're really talking about that the brain might make itself or synthesize from food, or could be major components of cell membranes in the human brain, or major precursors to neurotransmitters, or it could be plant-based compounds that have profound effects, documented profound effects on influence one or more neurotransmitter systems in the brain to improve functionality from baseline. So rest assured, Ginkgo falls into that category. It is pretty much as natural as a nootropic can get, and as far as I can tell, there really aren't many side effects. Now, I want to quick talk about some experimentation that I did with Ginkgo biloba and taking no other nootropics for a few weeks and simply taking just Ginkgo. At the time, my diet was sort of a general plant-based diet with the exception of salmon as my protein that I ate twice a day. I was eating 2 pieces of salmon a day, so my brain was working pretty well due to the DHA and the EPA, the omega-3 fatty acids coming from the salmon. But I eat salmon every day anyway, so that's kind of like just the baseline of my brain sort of always functioning. I certainly never had levels of EPA, DHA, and choline, by the way, because salmon is way too small. So what I essentially did was took 60 milligrams of Ginkgo biloba in the morning every day for 2 weeks. At the time, I really want to say that was the time where I had some of the most stable brain function I've had in quite some time. I'm always like, something's always happening where I can't sleep enough, or I work myself to the bone or something, puts me in a place where I'm stressed out or something, and I have to like sleep more, or whatever the case may be. And just kind of really just kind of working all the time, so it's like I don't rest as much as I should. During this time when I was taking the Ginkgo biloba, not only was my brain function awesome, my peripheral fluency was awesome, my working memory was awesome, discovery facet of my brain function was really awesome, but also I felt generally super stable. There's a kind of degree of stability you feel when neurotransmitters are in a good place and you feel totally balanced. And I gotta say, taking Ginkgo biloba really made me feel that balance, and it felt pretty good. One of the interesting elements of Ginkgo biloba for me during that experiment and throughout the other times I've taken it is its enhancement on my speed of processing. I'm just science about this stuff, I'm not going to cite any of this, is just my own anecdotal experience. But I gotta say, my speed of processing works a lot better when I take Ginkgo biloba. And I suspect that has to do with sort of all the mechanisms that are taking place here. You've got the enhancement of the cholinergic system via creating more acetylcholine in the prefrontal cortex and preserving acetylcholine signaling in the brain. You've also got that mild inhibition of the acetylcholinesterase enzyme. You've also got increases in dopamine concentrations in the striatum and in the prefrontal cortex. So that right there is a nootropic stack. I mean, Ginkgo with all the flavonoids and the below the line, this is a nootropic stack actually in one herb. That's why this plant is so awesome. That's why if you've done your research and it works out for you, you should give it a go, and that's why we totally recommend taking Ginkgo. Now, I wouldn't really say that you could take this or you should take this with a bunch of other nootropics, because I have generally had the impression that less is definitely more when it comes to nootropics, and that's what I've come to experience over the past experimented with it for a while and taken it consistently. I really love this herb.
Ginkgo biloba for the win.
Alright, I wanted to end the podcast and highlighting another person in the nootropics community that's providing some pretty awesome content out there. They always talk about biohacking and kind of quantified self stuff, but a lot of nootropic stuff lately. His name is Steve Cronin. Steve Cronin. Check him out on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Steve Cronin. You'll see all his videos. A lot of them are reviews about popular nootropics. There are reviews about nootropic stacks that are pre-made. There are reviews about nootropic powders, nootropic companies, individual nootropics sent to him by various companies. You kind of get to see like which companies, like whether it's New Star or Smart Powder or insert other company that he likes and that might be awesome and beneficial for you to do business with as well. And generally Cronin has a lot of awesome energy, and that's very cool to have somebody talking about nootropics in a positive light. He also defended the nootropic community when the BBC did basically an erroneous video, 17 minutes long, called My Smart Drugs Nightmare, where this guy took modafinil, had some performance benefits from it, got wakefulness and capacity to be extra productive, but was having some sleep issues among other things, and decided to do this whole thing called My Smart Drugs Nightmare, which by the way kind of grouped every smart drug, natural nootropics included into that same category. It has 177,000 views at this point and will in fact influence people to look at the entire realm of nootropics in a negative light, when that's one, we're really talking about a grain of sand in the beach compared to the rest of the nootropics. And we're talking about modafinil, which is an anti-narcolepsy drug. It's not a nootropic in my mind, in a lot of people's minds, nor is it really a smart drug in the traditional sense, and so it's very misleading. But Cronin defended us with a video that talks about basically all those points and more. You can find that by searching for My Smart Drugs Nightmare, R-E, the colon My Smart Drugs Nightmare, just My Smart Drugs Nightmare, and Steve Cronin. Shout out to Mr. Cronin. Coming up, for those of you who have not tried the Cortex nootropic, give it a shot to snag yourself a bottle. This stack has successfully penetrated the nootropics community very early. Only just launched February 20th. It's been out for just short of a month now, but people are reacting really well to it. We've got nothing but positive reviews about the stack so far, and I'm going to read you one from a guy named Jared Shiro, whose title to his review was Impressed. It goes like this: most nootropics are subtle, not Cortex. I spent about 4 hours a day reading from textbooks at college, and when taking Cortex, all the information seems to be easier to understand, and my focus throughout is far more enhanced. I literally don't want to stray off what I'm working on. It's different than caffeine. I actually feel my mind working better. Great product, guys. Worth your money, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Shiro. Appreciate that review. I need to send a bottle of the Cortex stack. A 30 pounds at mycortex.com. It'll be shipped to you in days. First stack combines 0 D-monophosphate, CBD, choline, artichoke extract, and the copamine in a very synergistic way. The main purpose of the stack is to promote focus endurance, memory, chiefly verbal fluency, and all-around productivity. The major benefit people that are taking Cortex are getting is energy in their brains to do more work. That's why I call workers. They have the capacity to engage in things. They want to engage in things. This is both a cholinergic and a dopaminergic stack, so people have the capacity to function really well when taking Cortex and also super motivated to do work to function well when taking Cortex. It's awesome. Otherwise, if you have not subscribed to our channel on YouTube, go to YouTube, find us by searching Live Cortex Nootropics channel or podcast. Check out all our videos of me talking about my various interests around nootropics, my experience with nootropics, my philosophy about smart drugs and nootropics. And if you're on iTunes listening to this podcast, please review the podcast and or subscribe, or maybe both if you're so inclined to, which would be really awesome. And remember to sign up for the email list on the livecortex.com blog so we can send you at the end of the week all the links for all the content we create. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going crazy with content creation, and it's going to be a lot. Alright, thanks for coming, everybody. It's been my pleasure to serve you. Really appreciate the fact that you take the time to listen to this podcast, and it means a lot to me. Really, and hey, till next time, we'll talk to you.
Listen very carefully and follow my instructions. Prepare your brain for the Live Cortex Nootropic podcast.
Welcome everybody to the Live Cortex Nootropics podcast. This is 007, and the title of this podcast is The Interplay Between Nootropics and Entrepreneurship. This for me dates back years and years and years. This is a topic very near and dear to my heart. It's something I can basically go on and talk about forever, which we're going to do here. I'll try to cut it short, but I have a lot to say about this topic because I think it's critically important, as we're going to talk about, for entrepreneurs to have good brain performance, and I think any entrepreneur can achieve that in myriad ways, and one of the best ways to do that comes by taking nootropics. So we're going to get into that. How nootropics have helped me to build 2 companies, one of which is a nootropics company, Live Cortex, the parent company that makes the Cortex Nootropic stack. We're going to talk about how every day my verbal fluency, my otherwise functionality, focus capacity, and more are improved as a result of taking nootropics, and how that allows me to run both of my businesses, but particularly a business that requires that I spend a lot of time engaged in that business, a lot of time engaging with customers over the phone and in person, and a lot of time hands-on doing physical labor with Apple products companies and Apple products from parent companies. We'll touch on the sort of ethical nature of taking nootropics as an entrepreneur, and why that might be a good idea to have the advantage over other entrepreneurs or competitors, etc., and why, really from my perspective, it's not an unethical thing to do. And we'll also talk about the growing desire for nootropics and brain performance optimization from the perspective of entrepreneurs, specifically for performance optimization. People know that their brains are going to be able to work better. People know that their brains work better, they're going to be better in the startup, they're going to make more money, they're going to hire better people who have better judgment and better interview capacity, or set up a better interview structure when their brains are working well. Really at the root of everything that we all do as entrepreneurs and in startups is our brains, the founders' brains, the senior level people's brains, and at the root of that is the performance of that brain. So if a brain is working well and the realm of performance is a lot that somebody can accomplish, and yeah, we can accomplish things rather quickly, a lot quicker than if our brains weren't working good. Baseline is very different than super optimized baseline with nootropics. So without further ado, let's jump into podcast 007 of the Live Cortex Nootropics podcast, the interplay between nootropics and entrepreneurship. Coming up. I gotta tell you, I haven't been an entrepreneur for 6 years. I will not go through the rest of my life. Talk about Aracetam, Paracetam, 0 D-monophosphate, alcohol, CBD, choline. You can always have a little break.
The Live Cortex Nootropic podcast is about to begin.
Alright everybody, 007 of the Live Cortex Nootropics podcast, the interplay between nootropics and entrepreneurship. This for me has, like I said in the intro, I mean, this is super near and dear to my heart. It's like I have discovered years ago when I first started taking nootropics, and kind of, I have to remind myself this all the time, I come to the same understanding all the time, that my brain being better, having better performance, for me to access information and to work well, really just having energy and verbal fluency capacity, memory capacity, focus capacity, my brain being good, working well in all these areas is the difference between me being successful and me not being successful. And I specifically mean financially successful in my life as an entrepreneur. And I can make better decisions that lead to more money. I can sit and analyze the situation more and come up with better, more things to do, like pursuing SEO further with the company because we're in like the nosebleed section for some of our target keywords in Google. That'll equal more money. And in every other area of the company, whether it's the administrative that one has to engage in on a day-to-day basis or on a weekly basis, or it's other sort of getting deeper into administrative like looking at your finances and specifically how you can start saving money, looking at your profit and loss statement, realizing like you're spending like all this money with this and this, you know, this, you know, credit card, this, you know, this, trying to change things. Having an optimized brain to look at all that stuff really makes you put you in a position to be able to make better decisions. So it's critically important to have a fully functional brain when it comes to the operations part of running a business and being an entrepreneur. But then there's the creative part. There's that whole other part that I think a lot of people have an argument against nootropics against, thinking that nootropics are really just about focus and getting work done. But for meditators, or those of us that are meditators, nootropics help tremendously to put us in the zone. You know, for me, when I take nootropics and then I sit down and meditate, I have a far easier time getting into that clear place. And once I get to that clear place and I've got control over my brain, you know, like at that point I really can start turning on the creativity, I can really start turning on the kind of brainstorm brain. When I sit down and brainstorm, it is far better and far easier for me to do brainstorming like activities, which are really creative activities to get you to sort of think outside the box and come up with new ways to approach things. I do it way better when I take nootropics. I can sit down, I can really get to brainstorming and whiteboarding or something. I spend an entire hour whiteboarding. I'm just branching things off, coming up with new stuff because my brain's working well because I'm taking nootropics. So I want to take you back years and years ago to the beginning of one of my companies. The company's called iMobile Rescue Inc. And at the time, I had a co-founder on the company, and this was back in 2012, about 4 years ago. And we had this small little place, this small little office, which was in the bottom of a business building. It was essentially the ground level, the basement level rather, of a business building where you couldn't really see us from the street. There were no signs on the street. We had to direct people down an elevator basically to the basement of this business building. It was professional. We had signs when we went down there. really balance to have in the strike. Sometimes if there's performance issues, you really have to address it. So when I was addressing my former co-founder's performance issues, we decided, let's get some nootropics and bring them into the picture. I really was using nootropics at the time, and I sampled a lot of individual nootropics, alpha-CBC and alcar, one of my favorites at that time. I tried racetam already, choline, bitartrate, ashwagandha. So I was all about actually sort of taking away nootropics after a while. It wasn't really that interesting, and it was cool to me. I just wasn't going to use it. So we decided to get ourselves a couple stacks of alpha brain. We had some alpha brain shipped to the repair center, and we started taking it. And I noticed for fluency improvements, a little bit of focus endurance, and I just was a little more productive. My brain worked a little better at certain parts of the day. It was great for me because unlike cortex or unlike some of the other really good nootropics out there, alpha brain kind of was spotty. It would hit me pretty well here and there, and then I'd be like, am I really noticing it right now? I'd be doing cerebral work to sort of be able to gauge that, but it just wasn't consistent enough result for me, to want to take it consistently and for that to be like the best nootropic ever. But nonetheless, it was helping myself and my co-founder a little bit to get better performance out of ourselves. For me, like I'm a good responder to nootropics, and my baseline is always super optimal, and it was optimal back then. And so me functioning optimized above baseline from taking a nootropic, a commercial nootropic stack, was a good idea. It gave me more verbal fluency and it allowed me to function better when it was working for me. My brain was responding to the chemicals in the stack, and a little bit for my business partner. Remember, he used to take Adderall, so I mean Adderall will mess your brain up probably and put you in a place where if you're taking subtle nootropics, it's not going to be comparable. Adderall is very, very hyper focused, super strong focused kind of substance. I do not call it a nootropic. I do not call it a smart drug. We're not going to group into that category because it really isn't, specifically in terms of all the side effects that comes with it. But nonetheless, people use it to focus, and that's an interesting thing. But for me, as I really just got back into my experimentation with nootropics, I started ordering aracetam and paracetam, different analogs of choline, acetyl-L-carnitine, ashwagandha, and a bunch of other stuff. I kind of started mixing it together, trying to find my own stack, making my own kind of super stack. I was fussing with Cuisine A back in the day, and I gotta say that with the right nootropics, with the right experimentation, I was functioning better than my baseline, and it really started to help me to take my business to the next level. It started to help me in my confidence level when I would go into business meetings with higher ups to try to sell them our service. It would help me when I was talking to people on the phone in terms of the confidence level when I was trying to get people in for appointments. That was the whole basis of our business model at the time. We had not gone national, which we are now, and not had a whole lot of businesses on board. It was basically just local, where the phone rang, people said, hey, I got a nootropic phone, tell me you guys know when, and we would try to sell them on the price and get them in for an appointment to for us to pick their phone. And me having a better brain as a result of taking the nootropics that I was taking really, really helped. But it wasn't until later on in the company that this was shortly after this, my co-founder left, and I took over the company completely and just tried to scale it as much as possible. And really, it turned out to be a great lifestyle business for me and a great business to facilitate essentially the angel investment in the cortex product and live cortex business, which is my next business and business I'm thinking about working on for quite some time. But through that process, as the business started to grow, and we really started to get some of the educational organization business, sort of B2B business that I was after, fixing iPads for schools at large scale, fixing iPads for corporations at large scale, fixing iPads for more people locally at larger scale. As we started to move into those arenas, it was really nootropics that helped me to have the proper fluency to sell some of these people and to help me to brainstorm the ideas about how to approach some of these people, and really just put my brain in a place where specifically the tasks that I need to focus on for a long period of time, I can easily do that. I totally attribute that to nootropics. Again, my baseline is great. I try to maintain a good baseline. That is what everybody should do. Yeah, that's what I do. That's what people should do. But at the end of the day, was really experimenting with and trying new and finding the right concoctions of nootropics for me really, really helped me to take this company along a little faster. Now, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm full energy. I like to get things done. I'm super ambitious, and so there's definitely a case for that springboarding my success as an entrepreneur so far, kind of fast tracking through business. I drove my first Mercedes at 29. Now I did my first 10K deal at 28, and I really started the whole thing right around 26 years old and became an entrepreneur right around 25. So it was like in those early years, I became successful enough relatively quickly. I had all these sort of benchmarks for success as a young entrepreneur that still has a long way to go, but it's like doing pretty well. And it was those early days where I was fussing with nootropics that I think really allowed me to have a faster edge. I would have done all this stuff anyway, and I think that's the distinction that's important to make. Nootropics don't help you become magic. You gotta be pretty magic by yourself, but they certainly will speed up the process that your brain uses to be magic, and all the great things that you already do. It's gonna make that stuff work faster and better, and that's an important thing. So I attribute a lot of my forward motion and a lot of the speed with which I move in business to having a better brain, and I attribute having a better brain to meditation, sleeping well, and taking nootropics for sure. Let's talk about entrepreneurs taking nootropics out there in the world. There is a phenomenon taking place within the realm of startups, within the startup community, of entrepreneurs taking smart drugs and nootropics to get ahead. In Silicon Valley over there, where it's like no holds barred, and the competition is crazy, and these guys are raising 10, 20, $30 million more, and are getting valuations of 100 million, 500 million, $1 billion, $20 billion from some of these startup companies, which by the way aren't profitable yet, a lot of them. But in that kind of dog-eat-dog world, in that sort of high-intensity competitive environment, a person's brain needs to work really well, and this is why people in Silicon Valley are resorting to heavy smart drugs and heavy compounds. The most popular of which you might imagine if you're sort of into this zone or you're a startup company or if you're into nootropics in general is an anti-narcolepsy drug called modafinil. Modafinil is very, very strong. It works on the dopamine system, the acetylcholine system, probably other systems too. It's a lot of mechanisms still not understood, but some we do get, and it's a very, very powerful drug. It's an actual drug, and so some people group it into the category of smart drugs. I guess I would sort of kind of lean toward grouping it into the category of smart drugs just because of the sort of executive function improvements that you will in fact get. You'll get some verbal fluency improvements for sure. You'll probably have memory improvements, definitely processing speed improvements, and as a result, you'll be a lot more productive from taking it. So it fits into the realm of smart drugs for me. I think that even some of the what we think are extremely safe or extremely lacking side effects type of nootropics or smart drugs like aracetam can have side effects for some people. It really depends on your brain chemistry, and so I've kind of become a little more lenient with my understanding of my definition, my own personal defining of smart drugs, and I would say that modafinil would fall into that category. So there are a lot of startups in Silicon Valley that founders are taking modafinil to put them in that zone. Modafinil puts you in like a hyper-focused zone, sort of like a sharp with black eyes. You're just ready to attack stuff, and you just want to focus and get things done. You're kind of just like not separated or not fragmented. You're all in one place, and you've got the brain capacity to get stuff done. And then there are other nootropics. There are a lot of entrepreneurs for whom aracetam and paracetam and some of the choline analogs with diracetam, oxiracetam are basically important to help them to get them through the day in terms of performance. And that is really where we start to look at different kinds of nootropics in entrepreneurship. It's not just modafinil. It's when you've got an entrepreneur that understands the benefit of not just speeding everything up like something like modafinil might do, but improving all the various aspects of the functionality of what makes you good at what you do as an entrepreneur. Now, if you're a good whiteboarder and you like to sit in front of the board and jot down ideas and you like to connect things together, then aracetam might be a wonderful smart drug for you. People might understand that and get that. Entrepreneurs out there have figured that out. Take drugs like aracetam to help them to whiteboard better and get more creativity out of themselves. So far, the cortex nootropic stack has totally reached entrepreneurs. I know a really cool chick from East South Carolina, South Carolina, who just religiously is buying cortex models. Says she loves it. Says her productivity is super fast when she takes cortex. And it makes sense. Cortex is a stack that's not just stimulatory because it is pretty stimulatory. It's also improving upon areas of the brain that don't have to do with the sort of back end of your productivity, verbal fluency, memory, focus capacity, all that sort of stuff, processing speed, right? Major components of the effects of cortex. And so people seem to be getting a great kick out of that. And there's a contingent of startup people and entrepreneurs out there that are using cortex as a way to get better performance out of themselves. I think that fundamentally entrepreneurs know that if there's a way to improve brain performance and a way to make them able to focus more and spend time on the things that really matter, that help to move the ball forward in growing the company's revenue and growing the company's user base, etc., that they're going to do it. And nootropics for a lot of people are certainly that answer. Which kind of brings me to this is a good segue to the idea of the sort of ethical nature of nootropics. And I think that this topic for me, I've wanted to talk about this topic. I've thought about it a lot, and I've come essentially to the conclusion that having the advantage neurologically is no more a crime than attempting to take a pre-workout inventing the idea that nootropics are cheating and that someone has an unfair advantage taking nootropics because they're doing better. People are inventing the idea because I think it's sort of like this black box to people. It's like, what is this nootropic stuff and smart drugs? Are they the same? Are they different? Where are you getting them? They affect the brain. Their chemicals, are they safe? Are there side effects? We don't know. Then there's dosing, and sometimes people, if they really want to get granular about it, will get milligram scales and capsule makers and bulk powder and be making the stuff in their living room. If they're coming out by that looks very, very scary, and people really don't know what to think of them. So since it's this black box sort of weird separated thing that nobody really has any idea about, and people, what they don't know about, they start to get fearful of it and start to make things up about it, start to talk about, right? You'll hear their irrational fears being voiced about a thing. People think nootropics, this is you're getting the unfair advantage. This is a substance that you're using to cheat through life, to have better